We are live.
We are live.
All right. Sometime we'll get like fancy music for that intro sequence.
Fantastic.
Figure out how to schedule that in advance so it automatically goes live with the music at 8. All right. Welcome to Easier Habits Live, your favorite semi-early morning business live stream.
It feels early. It's Monday.
8 a.m. Central on a Monday. So welcome. I'm Alec from Easier Habits, business growth consultant.
And I am Meg, communication consultant and coach. So, yay, global English stuff.
So our working title today is The Ads Will Continue Until Morale Improves. So we're still working on ads. We will do an overview of what we need to get your funnel live, because that's a top priority this week. And I can talk about ways I might pivot my ads. And hopefully this gives you a real life warts and all look at the processes of actual advertising, rather than somebody giving you this sanitized look at the thing that worked at the very end of a long process of figuring things out. Instead, you see the actual long process.
Yeah.
So in some ways, I think that will be more informative for those of you who are working on marketing your own businesses or starting with ads than somebody telling you after the facts what happened to work for them, because you don't get all the lessons you learn along the way.
Yep. So many lessons. Yay. All right. Well, I will get started with our communication tip. So last week we talked about lots of nonverbal things, and we kind of ended talking about this idea of personal space as well as eye contact. And so what I wanted to kind of transition that to is eye contact when you're talking to a group. So it's one thing to make eye contact with like a single person, right? I can stare into your eyes. Sometimes I go back and forth between, am I looking at the left eye or the right eye or in between, right? So, that can be a little weird, but for the most part, it's pretty easy to look into someone's eyes. However, you can't make direct eye contact with every single person in an audience at the same time. And so you need to figure out a way to look as though you are kind of paying attention to everybody, while also, getting through the whole audience. And there's a couple of things that can be difficult. One, speaking to large groups can be very nerve-wracking. A lot of people don't want to make eye contact with their audience because it's scary. And then other times you don't want to look like you're like frantically looking around like, okay, I'm making eye contact with you and you and you and you. So what I generally recommend is start with kind of a broad sweep as you look around. For people who are particularly nervous, you can look at like the foreheads of people or right at the top of their heads, because it'll look like you're making eye contact with someone, even if you're not. So that can be helpful. Make sure that you get the corners, right? As well as like the back. Some people have a tendency to look at just this center space, but make sure you get through the whole audience as you're going back and forth. And you don't have to just go back and forth and back and forth, right? But make sure you don't linger too long on any one person, because that can feel awkward if you're that audience member and it feels like the person is talking directly to you, right? So a few seconds, couple seconds here and there, make sure you get the whole audience. Excuse me. And then one thing that I know is kind of hard to do, but if you ever can get a videotape of what you look like when talking to a large audience, that can be super helpful, because you don't know what you look like until you've actually seen that. And that's not something you can do in front of a mirror, right? You can't say, oh, I'm surveying the audience, because there is no audience. So if you have access to a large room with a lot of seats, I automatically think of like our chapel, our church, If I were to stand up there, how would I get, my gaze to look at everybody? And could I have somebody videotape me for practice? I don't know. If you have access to a space, that's great. If not, then do your best. Just remember to be cognizant. And I know this is a lot of things as I talk about each little communication point, they add up to a lot of things eventually. But if you practice them one at a time until each one becomes a habit, it will be a lot easier. You won't have to think of all of them at once. So maybe, take them one at a time as you're practicing.
Nice. There is a little book plug here. I think Influence is Your Superpower has a chapter specifically on talking to audiences. And I'm not going to break that down or whatever. I think that tip is great. But there, just to tease, there's a story about Prince and how he was extremely awkward as a singer with the audience at first, very unconfident, so much so that there was strong negative reactions, and he actually deliberately worked on that until he could, make women swoon by... with his onstage presence. He really, this is something you can work on and nail. It just takes practice, and most people never get the practice talking to big audiences.
Well, and very much so. Needing feedback, right? That's one of the reasons why I do what I do, is I help people with that kind of stuff, because it is important, and it really can help and kind of make or break whatever your goal is. If you're trying to sell something, if you're trying to connect with your audience, all of these things are important. And so people can work on it. It's not something that you are necessarily born with or not born with. Just practice.
Yep. All right, so we have been working on your funnel. We have most of the bits up. We have a landing page. We have 2 landing pages,
yes,
as we talked about, and we have the MailChimp account and everything, but what we're waiting on is the template. So what do we need to get the template out so that we can get this funnel live and be learning?
Yes. Okay, so this template that I originally envisioned when I thought template, I had thought of a single page with, some lines that people could fill in. And then as I started making it, I was like, oh, but I want to put more in, and I want it to look nice. And so I spent some time figuring out how to make it look nice, because I've never done that particular thing in Canva, which is the app, I guess, that I use to make my materials. And it was interesting because as I saw the different kind of templates that they have and, figured out how I want to kind of put mine together, I also started thinking of more ideas and I could put this in and then I could put that in, and started to get a little bit turning into a book, or it would have turned into a book had I not recognized that eventually, and kind of said, okay, no, let's focus. What do I need here? And so the pieces that I still have left to finish on that are, I do want some sort of introduction, just little blurb, short blurb. So I have a couple paragraphs to write there, and then a couple more pages. So I've got the intro part all done. I've got the presenting the problem part all done. I still need to fill in the last couple of bits as far as the types of phrases used to present your solution to the problem, and then doing a call to action. And so what I need to do today is really focus on those. If I have other ideas, which I probably will, I need to recognize that that's a thing, and I can write those down, but this is what has to happen now, right? This is not a book that I'm writing. And I think if I'm able to do that, then that will be good. I think part of it too, I always underestimate the amount of time it's going to take to do something. So again, if I was just making a worksheet, it would probably have only taken a couple of hours, but this does look nice. And I do want it to look nice because it's going to an audience of people that I either know or semi-know, or they know of me. In addition to other people, right, that I don't know. We're going to be reaching out, obviously, eventually with ads, but I want this first thing to show a good quality and something useful, right? And so finding that balance between making it really good, while not wasting time making it super amazing, the best thing ever.
Well, and this puts me in mind of a case study that's been shared a lot in Silicon Valley, which is INVU, where they had a problem with their product. It's like this 3D avatar chat, and they had people sitting in different scenes, but they wanted you to be able to move around at different points within the scene. Mm-hmm. And they'd been putting that off because it is a problem that is still not 100% solved by video games and studios, a decade later, of how to avoid like accidentally walking through another 3D object when you're going through a scene, right? Like if you're getting up out of a desk, the chance that like your hip would go through the corner of the desk, for example, is huge. And like avoiding that is a giant complex problem that like you can still see from 3D stuff today. Still, there's still collisions and going through things occasionally. So it's still not 100% solved. And so what they finally did is they went with what they thought was a low quality solution where you just appeared where you wanted to be. And their audience's reaction was, this is the best ever. I don't have to wait to get where I want to be. So they thought it was a low quality solution because they were using the wrong yardstick, whereas their audience thought it was like a superior quality solution because they had that. And that is the one challenge when you get into this, like you've been working on the template for several days. When you get into this space is you're putting a lot of time judging it by one yardstick, but part of the problem why you want to get it out into the world is to see if you even have the right yardstick.
Yes, and that is perfectly true and valid. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that I think, right now that's kind of one of the lessons that I'm learning is recognizing what is my own, kind of perfectionistic tendency, or what is my spending so much time thinking what I need to do, have to do, should do, versus what is actually going to be effective. And so, I am still learning that. I haven't reached the point yet where I can make that judgment easily. Yeah. And so until I get to that point, right, it is just execution and doing it.
And one tool at your disposal, I mean, for these people, we want to test the whole funnel, but like you could have easily said, this is a business pitch template with someone I'm thinking of adding XYZ. What do you think? Right? Without actually having added XYZ.
That's a good idea.
Right? And so there's all these ways, right, that if you think small, like what's the smallest possible thing I could release? Small. You could even release a part of it, right, to get feedback on that part. And then say, I think I want these. Like, what do you think? What else does it need, right? Mm-hmm. And get other people's opinions so you don't have to release the whole thing. I am very big with MVPs. Like, the minimum viable product on this really could have been a template with, like, one paragraph to explain it, right? Like a fill in the blank, kind of like you said, just one single worksheet. And then you could say, like, give it to someone. Don't tell them what you're intending to add. Yeah. Ask them what they want before you say anything, right?
That makes sense.
How is this for you? Like, what more would you want? What would you change, etc. And then at the end of your conversation, you could bring in, I'm thinking about adding this, XYZ. Like, which one of these do you think is most important? Would you want most? Is there anything else, right? And so that is a way that you could take a very lean and learning-based approach to releasing this. That said, when we do release it and you're releasing it to acquaintances, people who added you, because you have a bunch of people, Japanese people who've added you on Facebook that you don't even know because they're like friends of friends, right?
Yep.
And so release it to them and let them in on it. This is one of the things where I think everyone tries to be super expert all the time, and you don't have to be, which is like you are as a learning a coach allowed to try new things and ask for feedback. And so what you do there is just say, hey, I'm even before you let them in the funnel. I mean, you can start putting them in the funnel, but the first you can just say, hey, I am launching this new business pitch template. Is this the kind of thing you'd be interested in, and would you be willing to give me feedback on it?
Yeah.
And that puts a very human slant on things.
Yeah.
It's like very connective. It's not spammy. Like, you may even find eventually that works better for you than running ads or just saying, hey, try my template, right?
Yeah.
Who knows? And so again, like figuring out ways that instead of trying to be perfect and trying to be expert, you just try and share something with someone, and then invite them to engage, and that engagement can be giving you feedback.
Yeah, I like that a lot, actually, because I can see a lot of times in the past where I have delayed, posting something or going, all the way with something because, I had to have it perfect. And in grad school, right, my committee chair, he was like, well, would you like your thesis to be perfect or would you like your thesis to be done? And, kind of got to that point where I was like, oh man. But then finding ways, authentic ways to, kind of qualify that, like, look, this may not be a final product and that's okay. Right. It does, it kind of opens up. And honestly, I know one of the good ways as far as like, when they talk about like influence and all of that, you're more likely to have influence with someone if you ask for their help first, right? And so looking at it that way as opposed to like, I have this beautiful, amazing thing and here you go. So yeah. And I think another thing too is recognizing like my brain's mental capacity to focus on things for, a certain amount of time and the different things that cause it to get like hung up. As well as, okay, so we just had a weekend, right? And I did a lot of work, on this last week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, especially. But as far as like, I had intended to do some work on Saturday as well, and that did not happen. And I was kind of looking at the reasons why. And yes, there's other things to do on Saturday. We've got Saturday cleaning and I've got kids and there's other things. But part of it, my brain needed a break, I think, from focusing on it. And I always get that on Sunday because I don't work on Sundays. But it needed it on Saturday. And so kind of recognizing that and factoring that in when I set kind of presumed deadlines or whatever in the future is, okay, if there's a weekend in there, what am I realistically going to get done? And so I think, again, it's just understanding and expectation management of, I can't focus 24/7 all like forever. I can do that for a few days and that's fine. But then my brain like, starts to struggle with it.
So what I'm hearing is this is really hard and I need to be sensitive when the deadline goes over so I can put out this, do this difficult thing to a particular standard, right? And it's all of that additional mindset. This is the strategy over process. I can make this brilliant by sitting and thinking and working on it myself.
Yeah.
And the shift here, like the alternative to process over strategy is what can I get out Friday?
Yeah.
And invite other people into that process to help you with it and give you that feedback.
Yes. And I love that so much more because it sounds so much more manageable and less like I failed to get it out on Friday like I had said I was going to. Because like there's definitely been that. There's been like, I wanted to have it done and I didn't and I feel bad and everything. And I don't want to beat myself up about it because I can't go back and change it. But what I could have done, is say, okay, look, this is what I've got. And put that out there so I'd still be making progress even if I hadn't finished it completely.
And it's a training yourself to ask that question, what can I get out by this deadline?
Yes.
Right? The what can I get out?
As opposed to when can I get this thing done? What can I get out by that point?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a shift. That one will help you put stuff out more frequently, right? And be thinking in terms of minimum viable products so that you're learning, you're getting more learning, right? Because, if something takes you 1 week to get out and test versus 2 weeks to get out and test, right? If you make a habit of that, you're learning twice as fast by getting smaller chunks. Even if you eventually produce the same amount, by putting smaller chunks out and testing twice as much, you're learning twice as much. And so your process is going to result in a better strategy long term rather than trying to nail the strategy, presentation, etc. all on the first iteration. So the how can I get it out by this date, and that's also why it is helpful to set deadlines for yourself, which is the other thing. If you're working for yourself and not setting deadlines, chances are like stuff is not getting done, and so you should think like, what can I put out this week? What am I going to change this week? At a minimum, if you can hit what am I going to put out in the world today, that's even better.
Yes, definitely. And I think I had a thought and my brain's like in a billion places right now because, and this is another thing too, right? It's December, Christmas is coming up. I'm going to Utah this weekend to visit family, and there's all these other things going on. And so all morning, my brain has been like battling against, I have so much to do, I just want to shut down, while saying, well, no, okay, I have so much to do. I'm not going to probably get all of it done this week. What can I have done by the end of today? Right? And recognizing that I may be wrong with my estimation, right?
Yeah.
And so at that point, it's about prioritizing, right? So, okay, if nothing else, I can do this. It would be, and I like what you talked about last week or something. It would be unreasonable for me not to be able to do this, right? By today. So, here's best case scenario, but worst case scenario, right? As long as I at least get that done, then that's good. And kind of building it up from there. So, you've got the chi-square or whatever of things that are urgent and important, right? Is this urgent and important? Is it urgent but not important? Is it important but not urgent, or not urgent and not important? And being able to see what's in each of those categories and be honest, because not everything can be urgent and important, because that's exhausting.
Yeah. Well, and right. So there are things that are urgent and important, and I think the underlying thing that I really want to like underscore as someone who's observing your thoughts as you speak them, it's like this thing is by nature urgent and important.
Yes.
It is a big deal.
Yes.
Like,
as opposed to me late, like
my expectations around this are turning it into a big deal. And I'm dealing, with the same thing. I put a tweet out on Friday. Do you ever tell yourself X work is going to be hard and unpleasant, and then chew yourself out for not doing it? That's effed up. You should stop it. And that's because I put that out because I'm going through that, and I, added to the tweet, kind of just kidding. Like I'm dealing with this too, and asking myself the questions like, why am I turning this into a big deal?
Yeah.
Where did I learn this in the past? What purpose is it serving now? Like, what is the actual function of it right now?
Yeah.
And a lot of this stuff does come back to the ways in which our, parents and school situations shaped us, right? That where, we talk about like people are averse to feedback. Yep. Because most of the feedback you got in school was kind of punitive in the sense of you got it at the end of a project and, you got all the things wrong with your project. And hopefully your teacher included some encouragement. But like for the most part, you were looking this as like an essay that the right essay gets 100% and everything you do wrong gets it knocked down a peg, and like you don't really care about a nice comment, right? Like that's how you view essays.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that is, well, and I mean, I feel like I had a lot of teachers who did do that. Like you start with 100 and then for every mistake you make, you get points knocked off.
Yep.
And so you never get points added for doing something good. Right? It's just points knocked off for doing something bad. And having all those like aversions to that. And
that is exactly the opposite of a product, because you can nail something so brilliantly that people don't care about the other pieces.
Yeah.
Right? And in fact, that's the type of thing you're looking for, right? As we're doing a funnel, instead of when I don't get 100% of, I don't get anyone converting on a landing page, right? It's the difference between optimizing that landing page and realizing like, I don't care if I get 1 or 2 more visitors on that landing page. If I'm not getting some, I'm in the wrong ballpark. I need to be, hitting a home run somewhere else and then optimizing something that gets traffic rather than, trying to create a super fancy landing page, because somewhere else somebody has a perfectly usable landing page with like title, subtitle, and form. Like I have seen this multiple times, for people running businesses where it's successful. So it's like, all right, I want something that can be successful there, and then later I could tweak it with a teaser video or an image or like bullet points or testimonials and see if they improve. But like, I'm not trying to create, that 100% on each item. I'm trying to find the one offer that makes people willing to put up with all the rest of my BS. and then optimize the other stuff, right?
I like that.
And that's kind of more of the mindset, and it really is, again, like, it is about the offer.
Yes.
Right? Especially for early people, because if you have a great offer, people will suffer through a landing page as long as it's clear what to act, what the offer is, they want the offer, and how to like click to it, right? As long as you have that basic thing, if you have a really good offer, people will go through it. Now, the percentage of people will be, will vary depending on the quality of that, but like, you'll get somebody if you have a really good offer. And that's what you want to optimize for. And I am assuming that you are roughly good at what you do as a business person. Like, obviously you have to be proficient in your job, but meaning you've helped people in the past, basically, and you've done it well and with sufficient expertise. Yeah. So I'm not like advertising you to put out crap services, but at the same time, like, there are a lot of people who have good services who will never help anybody because they can't figure out how to create that offer and get people into their services. And the people, even kind of, admittedly, like the snake oil salesmen, the people who go ad first and don't have a quality product, they're actually more likely to help people in the end because they're learning.
Yes,
they've actually got the movement. And like, for a lot of people, and I think, we fall on that. We look at the people who do advertising first as like, oh, you're so terrible and you have a mediocre product. Like, offer people their money back if they want it, right? And that's the way to get out of it. Like, put something out there to test, and if it doesn't work, offer their money back. So like, they're just out a little bit of time at the end of the day, right? If that's a big worry for you, if you're not confident in the quality of what you're offering. But like, get that offer out there as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And so, speaking of which, I've learned quite a bit about my offer from my, getting reasonable amounts, like at least in terms of like cost per click, reasonable performance on my ads, just with like low amounts of spends, like $30-$50 here or there. I've gotten, I think, around a total of $80, 200 clicks. I don't know exactly what that is. Probably would have been more on Facebook because that was cheaper. LinkedIn is more expensive. But zero movement on the landing page.
That's crazy.
Not that crazy. And I have identified why I think, again, and this is why you get the ads out, so you can learn. So I have been in content building space for a long time. I haven't done anything with ads in a while. And content is about like teasing interesting information, which the ad successfully does. But the problem is, and this is something I only got from working with you on your funnel, right? Doing this more than once, right? Is that I'm not offering them anything concrete other than the answer to this mystery. And people don't care about the answer to a mystery enough to sign up to an email list, right? So what happens when people are curious, they click through the ad and they're like, okay, well, I can look this up myself without getting on the email list, or like, I don't care that much to like, why what I'm teasing people with is like 65% of startups fail due to founder friction. Here's an alternative to getting a partner that can, to growing your business without a partner, that I'm teasing. And I'm teasing, 39 in some places, 39% of seed stage founders use this strategy, 60% of growth phase, or like Eric Schmidt, Sheryl Sandberg, and other, Silicon Valley titans use this strategy to grow their business, which is all coming back to like basically the strategy is coaching, which is true. Like it's this thing, like pretty much every hyper successful person hits the place where they realize that they can't afford to learn things on their own, that they need someone to structure things, just because it just genuinely speeds up the process, right? So it's a transformation I want to help people make, but like I'm not really offering anything for that mystery. And so I realized, like, it's unclear, for instance, how that would benefit them, right? They might be curious about it, which is enough to go on a piece of content. And if I just wanted to boost content to get new followers on my channel because people are finding me because of interesting content, that's one thing. But I'm trying to figure out like an actual client and lead funnel, different purpose. So one of the things I realized is, what you are offering is, and the way we started structuring your funnel is you're offering a template. And they get that as soon as they sign up. And then your VSL is basically an upsell into a free coaching session. So, I'll use the term upsell loosely, right? Yeah. But you're inviting them to engage a little bit more. It's a great offer because it's like, well, who that gets this pitch wouldn't want a free coaching session with that pitch? Like, that's a no-brainer for anyone who actually wants to get good at pitching in English. Right? And it's there in the session where they've already signed up to your email list and seen the template, and then they've already practiced with you. So they've seen, the quality of what you offer, that you then can pitch them like, hey, here are other things you need to practice around the pitch. Just like follow up or like networking to get the pitch or whatever, right? You can expand that. And then at that point where they have more confidence and there's a relationship, you can invite them to actually spend money. And so this is this great way of, like, at each step, there's something clear that they're getting. Yeah. And the early offers are no-brainers, like free business pitch template. It's free. Okay, I have to sign up for an email list, but I can unsubscribe and I'll have the template. Right? Like, that some people will balk at that calculus, but like the people who actually want the thing, that is a plain offer. And then yes, the next offer moves them forward, right? To trying out your services. But again, it's a no-brainer. Who wouldn't want free help? Practice with a native coach practicing on that pitch, right? And so, working with that, and it's kind of one of those like physician heal thyself things. Like as we were working on it, I was able to find help you with the language and the offer at each step and make this very nice progression. Whereas what I had done is just a content strategy. I hadn't really done a funnel strategy. So and this is what I'm going to work on this week, is going back and turning this kind of content, info mystery. People don't need more information. Right, into something pragmatic, very similar. And so, for instance, say something like 65% of startups fail because of founder friction. Here's a checklist of things to do if you're considering getting a partner or something like that, right? I'm offering them the checklist, and then on the page I can, tease a little bit more than the ad that, if you want to accelerate your growth and acquire skills for your business that you don't have right now. Partnership is not the only strategy. Here's a checklist that includes not only how to vet your partner, but how to consider other alternatives to getting a partner. And I can talk about, mentors, mastermind groups, and of course, coaching, right? So those, so you sign up, and on that landing page, I can say sign up for the checklist, and then that makes it really clear why you have to sign up. I'm not just gating it because I want your email address before I show you the video. Yes. Right? So it makes that clear what they're getting at that level, and then similar to your process, my VSL can be an explanation of the checklist. Yep. Right, into basically an upsell for not free coaching, but specifically, hey, if you want to talk through, the pros and cons of picking a partner for your specific business, get a free coaching session here. Again, so like for someone who really wants to nail this process, again, it's a no-brainer, it's free, and they get to talk through somebody who's not going to have interest in it, or, who's not impacted by it in a way, and go, like, if you're talking to someone inside your business, that can be politics or egos on the line. If you're talking to family or friends outside, they may not really care or really engage with the business side because they're not interested in it. Yeah. And so, they can share this process with someone who is very interested in, the process of building a business, but who can be, more objective, give insight. And so, I'll boil that down to a single page pitch or whatever, or single sentence pitch in terms of, the free thing. And then same deal, right? Creating that user journey in bite-sized chunks. So, all they have to do is give me their email address, then, sign up for a free session. And then only after they've actually interacted with me, I can follow up on, hey, you had questions about XYZ. Do you want to start coaching around that? Do you want to start coaching around a minimum viable product that you can try to launch without a partner to see what you need, right? Do maybe you actually have some of those skills, or you don't need some of the skills you think you need in a partner if you actually test before you give away half your company, etc. So I can make that pitch, that user journey, one step at a time. And I will zoom out. And for the business tip, I will say that this is just a great example, again, of process over strategy, right? I just didn't realize that I had subconsciously been going through my funnel with a content producer style strategy rather than really the user customer journey strategy. And I only saw that, I've only seen that because I have this process of checking in every day and thinking about what's possibly going wrong. Yay. I'm, starting to do this multiple times. So I didn't just run that one funnel and quit. Like, I moved on to another one. Mm-hmm. There will be another iteration and there will be more learning, and the ads will continue until morale improves. Anyway, a process beats strategy. Create a process, especially if you're launching ads, where you're putting stuff out there regularly and looking at where things are breaking and why, trying out your hypotheses, and that's where you will learn. You're not going to get a lot of learning done in researching what theoretically should work before you launch anything.
Yeah, that's so true.
All right. Okay. Until tomorrow, make big changes, one small habit at a time.